Once again, you welcome Nigerians, including the president of the Christian Association of Nigeria, Samson Ayokunle, and the Sultan of Sokoto, Saad Abubakar, have warned that widespread insecurity across the country is the greatest threat to the forthcoming elections in 2023. Also, Haneze Ndigbo scribe Oke Emuche has said that as soon as the issue of Igbo presidency took a life of its own, the spate of insecurity heightened in the southeast. Now, on his part, representative of the Northern Elders Forum, Professor Yusuf Osman, has argued that Nigeria's slide into anarchy began with the scrapping of history as a standalone subject from the school curriculum, while noting that elders had lost control of the youth across the country. He added that banditry was a social issue which must be addressed through justice and social reform. Now, joining us to discuss these, we have Joseph Hayab, who is the chairman of the Christian Association of Nigeria in Kaduna State, and of course, Charles Otu, who is a political analyst. Gentlemen, it's great to have you join us on Plus Politics. Good evening and welcome.
Thank you for having us too.
All right.
Thank you for having us.
Okay, so I'll start with you, Joseph Hayab. When you hear the Christian Association, or when we hear the president of the Christian Association of Nigeria and the Sultan of Sokoto speak together about the state of the nation, this is something we don't hear or see on a regular basis. So what exactly should we make of it?
In the past few years, efforts have actually been going to bring these two major religion groups together, and the leaders have been leading by example. There is synergy, there is understanding, there are platforms that these two religious leaders have been meeting, not just the two of them, but with other representatives, to begin to talk about Nigeria, to begin to find solutions Nigeria, to begin to offer meaningful advice about Nigeria. Because we've realized that in the past, the divisions that have always come out in the public domain are the things that the enemies of Nigeria use to continue to suppress the country, to continue to cause havoc. Because when you deal with an enemy like this, and all the enemy will want to see is division, so that instead of you calling him or mentioning his fault, you will be busy fighting one another. I think time has come that leaders and all of us are beginning to see that unless we unite, unless we begin to speak with one voice, unless we come together to look at Nigeria as our country, to look at the issues that are confronting us as a problem on every Nigeria, not on Christians alone or Muslims alone, not on Southerners or Northerners alone, we cannot solve the problem. So for me, I actually applaud this effort, and I commend those who facilitate that meeting to bring that togetherness. And I just hope that they will continue, because it's not just because of 2023 election, it's about Nigeria. We need to be on the dialogue table as Nigeria, speak as Nigeria. Look, there's nothing wrong on that table. We exchange words and express our grievances, or express our pains, but at the end, we still embrace one another. That is how we can offer meaningful advice to this country, and that's when we will begin to have leaders, and we will hold those leaders accountable. But as long as we are divided, our leaders will want to do what they want to do because they know we are divided. We will not even hold them accountable. Instead of holding them accountable, we will be blaming one another.
All right, Charles Otu, what are your thoughts in relation to what your counterpart Joseph Hayab said? With these two leading figures coming out to speak about the state of the nation, we're well aware that religious leaders have been speaking a lot in recent time, and well documented. There's a lot of mistrust between both faiths, and especially when you look at the north and southern divide. Do you think that this is something that would change the narrative as far as the country is concerned and remove the mistrust between both faiths as far as polity and the nation in general is concerned?
Thank you very much for having me. Thank you, Reverend Hayab. He has actually pointed out a very critical fact, and that is the fact that the insecurity does not select who should be a victim. You recall that the train that was hijacked by terrorists on its way to Kaduna, the terrorists are concerned about the figure, the number they are having to negotiate with, or to cause the government to negotiate with. They really isolate people to say, oh, you are a Christian, we want to take you and keep you in custody. You're a Muslim, you can go. So that move by the various religious groups, the Christian Association of Nigeria, and the Sultan is a very good move and it's commendable. It's actually sad that we are referring to it and then making an analogy of how it's going to affect the 2023 general elections, not minding that Nigeria will need to survive even before the 2023 general elections, and that if present trend continues, there is no saying that it is a real threat to the election. Because what it shows is that people have acquired massive arms. What it also shows is that with the political temperature rising speedily, there could be alignments with people who are armed to disrupt the process of the election. We pray that doesn't happen to Nigeria. But then, if the recommendations made by these religious groups are not taken very seriously the way they should, we could be heading to that doomsday. Our fears could be very founded because they could be well founded because what have been their recommendations? They are saying, look, the generality of the security architecture needs to be repositioned. You shouldn't find a scenario wherein the Inspector General of Police, for instance, visits Kaduna, parades and confirms that the road leading to Kaduna is very safe. And the very next, within 48 hours, people are kidnapped on that road, people are killed. I mean, if people are sitting tight to their positions as security heads, what it means, therefore, is that what the National Assembly told us may be correct, that security in Nigeria has become a cash cow business. Insecurity in Nigeria that is plotted, harvested, and then people are making a mincemeat of the nation from it. Look at the budget that has gone into security since this dispensation in the last 7 years. You will see a progression towards, of course, the recurrent expenditure. Nobody is talking about what has been budgeted, where has it gone into, and what has been the response towards those budgets. If we budgeted for Toscana aircrafts, nobody is asking, have they been purchased? Who is responsible for what? What kind of arms and tactics have these security heads changed? And that is why I personally accept the views of the religious leaders that the leadership of the various security heads need to give space for people who have a new sense of ingenuity to take over.
Okay. All right. Interesting. We've been having these, and I'll go back to Joseph Hayab. We've been having these statements in the past, especially before elections. I mean, we've seen things like the National Peace Council. We've seen things like, you know, politicians, leading politicians and candidates of the leading parties coming together to sign peace pacts in the past. And we still have violent elections. Now, we're just not talking about violence during elections. We're talking about the state of the nation and insecurity that may threaten the 2023 elections. But nothing changed in the past. So what can you say, Joseph Hayab, to convince me and the rest of our viewers that the statements of these elder statesmen, religious leaders will go far or hold any water?
I think we must give credit to the efforts that have been put together in the previous or in the last two elections. Nigerians will agree with me that in 2015, this Nigerian Peace Committee, whatever they call themselves, did a good job by engaging all the political actors at that time. And somehow Jonathan became the hero by showing leadership and conceding to defeat. And in 2019, they also did a lot of effort. I'm not sure we actually have records that during those elections, people were killed, as I'm hearing from you. What we do have record is that there is insecurity in the country. Not that it happened. So the insecurity in the country have grown to the extent that we are now scared that we may not even do the election. And so these leaders are calling and appealing that government should wake up and ensure that the country is safe, because we must have a country before we vote for someone to lead us. If we don't have a country, if we vote for you, who are you going to lead? Are you going to lead just your family? So I think this also, because let's not confuse the whole conversation into as if there has been total failure.
But Joseph Hayab, what I'm saying is we've had these statements in the past, during elections, before elections, and I can give you examples of states across the country where violence, electoral violence was recorded, even pre-election violence was recorded, or election-related violence was recorded. We had religious leaders, you know, and elder statesmen like we're having now visit some of these states And the leading candidates were made to sign peace pacts. They came out, they even cut cakes and stuff. But people still died. They still armed thugs who went out and scouted the elections, and they killed themselves. Those who used, security agencies, used them. So,
This cannot
all
be
this
the
talk.
fault of the peace committee or the religious leaders.
Yeah.
We understand the kind of political class we have in Nigeria. People who have no ideology, people who have no agenda, people who just want to rule us by force, people who want to become leaders whether people like it or not. Unfortunately, they are taking advantage of the poverty in the country. They're taking advantage of the low education among many young people and giving them drugs and giving them money to go and burn and destroy homes just because they want to win election. And that's why we feel strongly that there has been a shift, because in the past they do those things because they will use it to rig election or use it to manipulate election people. And we are just believing that somehow we are making progress with the signing of the new Electoral Act, but that's not enough. We are talking about the country in general, not just about election. There is no peace in the East. There is no peace in the West. There is no peace in the North. Every day people are dying. Every day numbers are being thrown out there telling you that so number. Like yesterday in Plateau State, 80 people killed. This is terrible. And in Kaduna State, it's like an everyday business. You hear the one you hear, and many are being just kept. People just mourn in their home without necessarily complaining. So what we are saying today is that, look, there's a growing insecurity in the country, that even the relative understanding we used to have during election time may not be possible come 2023. Can we start doing something at this moment? Can we take steps that will stop and bring about sanity, so that when we come, people can come out to vote? But when we don't do that, people may likely not come out to vote, because people must be alive before they vote.
All right, interesting, Joseph Harb. Charles Otu, I don't know which of the religions you belong to, whether you're an atheist. I mean, that's your prerogative. But I do assume you've sat in an occasion. I'm assuming you've sat in an occasion where you've had VIPs, for instance, governors or ministers, and you've had maybe a clergyman, either an imam, a sheikh, or some sort of a priest. Are these religious leaders part of the problem? Why wait till some months before the election for things to get to this crescendo of insecurity before say these things? For instance, we talk about the volatile parts of the north of the country, the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Mr. Charles Otu. The northern part of the country, northeast, east, northwest, and north central, predominantly Muslim. Another volatile part of the country, southeast, predominantly Christian. You have Catholics, Anglicans, and then, of course, the Pentecostal churches. Have our religious leaders spoken truth to power enough?
Well, thank you so much. It does appear like we're echoing what, of course, I'm a Christian, and I'm happy this conversation is coming. I'm not coming across religious groups or divides. It is no longer, some people trying to say, oh, that, or pretend or sit on the fence about it. It re-echoes what a clergyman in the eastern part of Nigeria said, that most times what pastors and other religious sects, including Reverend fathers, do in the country, just like the imams, it's at best awful. Sometimes you see them, they just want to sit on the fence and build in the good book of the present government of the day, without knowing that their duty actually as religious leaders, because these governors, these senators, the lawmakers, and all sorts of people that are in politics come to them to pay obeisance. And that is actually an opportunity to speak truth to power. Even in the faith I practice, which is Christianity, you see people in the days of the old, in the biblical examples, wherein leaders got to church and they were told, this is how you should act. And that has been lacking sincerely among our religious leaders on both divides, both Christians, both the Muslims and the traditionalists, and of course, all manner of religions. We've seen people get to power and they are just, the church is only interested in the politician completing a building project for the church. And the church is shut up for that same reason. I will cite an example in my state of Ebonyi, for instance. In Ebonyi, you will find out that the CAN chairman is a member of the State Executive Council. Not just a member of the State Executive Council, he is even the closest person to the governor of my state, David Omar. And you still find out that, look, this man, if he had been advised rightly, shouldn't be taking certain actions, which means the priest is there. Another priest, for instance, who is a Catholic priest, Reverend Timothy Mbuta, is detained or remanded in prison. And the same Catholic priest, who is a member of the ESCO, is not talking about or doing so much to cause about that can lead to his release from prison. What are the issues? The church depends largely on these political demagogues or these politicians to survive. And because of it, they have taken away the power to speak truth to power to them, from them. And what that is taken away, as has been the case in the last 7 years, you see things going as awful and horrid as it has gone, and you see the church only lamenting and complaining. Same goes to the Islamic religion. Of course, you heard about the sheikh in Abuja that was suspended. What was his crime? That he said, look, this is security has gotten out of hand. People have to sit up to their responsibilities and take charge. And the imam was suspended. From suspension, he was sacked. So you see, it cuts across religious divides. But if the leaders continue to hear these truths from religious leaders, not just when election is coming, they come to bring them together to sign peace plans and talk about how it is affecting how it's going to affect the election. What we are giving is just a staccato arrangement that makes it readily make people think, okay, all these preparations is towards the election. So if you have an election, what comes before, what comes thereafter, after an election? So that has made it difficult. The church and the Islamic leaders, the church leaders and the Islamic leaders alike, have not held the government reasonably accountable because they have the pulpit. None of the leaders walk away from the church. None of the leaders walk away from the mosque, being told the truth.
Okay.
The highest that could happen, what happened, they can be slammed with suspension. But if it becomes a norm that you cannot have a safe haven, if you enter this church, you're going to hear the same truth. If you enter this mosque, you're going to hear the same truth. You have no option that you begin to think about how to redress your,
Okay. Charles, so too interesting. I'll come back to Joseph High about the Christian Association of Nigeria. You've heard him. I've asked him a question. Are our religious leaders speaking truth to power? He says point blank, no. What do you think about this? Because all these politicians, they attend church or they go to the mosque for their prayers. They get laid hands, they receive laying of hands. Some receive prophecies and anointing. And I've said it before that never before, especially from the last administration into this one, before in the history of Nigeria, has the church or the religious circles, maybe even the mosque or Islam, had as much influence in the polity. It's never been as much as it is in these days across the country. We can go back to liberation theology as propounded by the famous Peruvian theologian of the Dominican, a priest of the Dominican order, Gustavo Gutierrez, and we saw what he did for the people and how he spoke truth to power. So what do you say to Charles Otu's remark that our religious leaders have not spoken truth to power? It's a pretty long question, but I hope I was able to pass.
Well, I think the recent development should have changed his thinking, but that's the truth. The truth is that we've not had enough religious leaders speaking truth to power. We must honor to that. Because when you have a large part of religious leaders and you just have probably 10 or 20 speaking truth to power, it's not enough. Some of us who do come out in this station, that I've always been here. I think this is the first time in the past 6 months that I'm even smiling. Every time I come on this media, I am frowning, I'm angry because I've lost a loved one, things are not going in right, Kaduna is on fire. But you see, just one voice speaking every day, those in power will just tag you as an enemy or give you some names. So I quite agree with him that we've not really been doing enough. Many of my colleagues should wake up, because if you allow just one person, let's say an example, when the imam came out and speak what was true, many clerics are agreeing that what he said is true, but how many of them have come publicly to agree? Even if they say they agree with him, they're just saying that behind the scene. Why? They don't want to come publicly and say we agree with him because they are thinking they are going to lose their friendship with those politicians. But what that man have done is to set the pace. And more clerics supposed to come out in support and condemnation of evil. Because how on earth will you be asking for election? Well, we have almost a large number of people in the hands of the bandits. The bandits are even threatening the government of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, are saying that, look, you know what we want. We're not asking you for money. Do what we want. Who are they? Our government should be strong enough to show them the might of government. But because nothing is really happening. So if you ask me to put the answer very simple, not many clerics have actually been speaking truth to power.
Okay.
But there are clerics who are speaking truth to power.
Yeah.
They have been called names. They've either been tagged as supporting a particular political interest. I want to encourage those few clerics that don't give up, continue to speak truth to power. I don't want to beat my chest and say whether I'm one, but those who have been following me can tell.
Yes,
whether
yes,
I am
we
one
know about that, especially those of
but
you.
the truth is that
Yeah.
not enough. About 2 weeks ago, I watched something that was quite disturbing. On one of the national television stations, clerics, Christian pastors, people who dress, to be honest, to be candid with our viewers here, that sometimes people who go to the market and buy certain regalia and dress and call themselves bishop, and they were binding and losing and claiming that some people are supposed to be president. The fact that they are even saying that those people are gift to Nigeria. As a Nigerian, I know the history behind those people. I can't even understand you calling them gift to Nigeria. Well, they've not been able to do anything in the state where they are governing, or they've not been able to do anything where they are operating. But you see, this is the kind of system. But here is the crux of the matter.
Okay.
There is so much hunger in the land.
Yeah.
So people now hide under religion, wanting to get food. That's why they cannot speak truth to power. So I quite agree with Brother Charles that not many religious leaders have been speaking truth to power. But this effort by the Sultan and the current president must be commended, because at least now the leaders are speaking, so others should follow, so that the voice will be added. And when more people begin to speak, then those who think that they will not be wholly responsible know that we have woken up from our slumber.
All right, I want to thank you, and for the good work you're doing, and you've been vocal. Before we round up, Joseph Hayab, apart from speaking truth to power, we know the genesis of these conflicts in the country. I do not know if we'll be talking about this banditry if Boko Haram had not started like a joke that was treated with kids' gloves in the time of Chief Olusegun Obasanjo when their leader was killed. But these guys profess to be followers of Islam, and I do not know if it's impossible for the Islamic clerics led by the Sultan, with all respect to him, to have along the line interface to make sure, see what they can do. We go down to the southern part of the country and we know what is happening in the southeast. Of course, we have the Biafran agitation, but we know how devout people from that part of the country are, to the Christian faith. Would it not have been possible for the leaders of the Christian faith and the Jewish faith in Nigeria to interface with the proponents and those who started these agitations? Because whether the gunmen are known or unknown, it wouldn't have been this way or this bad if that agitation had not gone the way it did. So I don't know what you have to say about that in just a sentence or two.
Yeah, the truth about it is that
being proactive.
Domain. It may not be in the public domain, but I'm fully aware of efforts by certain bishops, because they've not asked me to mention their names. I've known about series of meetings that they've been holding with the Biafra youth groups that have been agitating.
This year, last year.
The fact about it is that they even visited Kanu in prison.
Well, maybe it's become too late. When this thing started, some people were promoting it and defending it and encouraging, cheering on.
The agitation in the southeast was wrongly managed by government. When government supposed to initiate dialogue, government thought that she could just crush them. Let's be honest to ourselves. You see, that's why one of the famous outspoken senator of Nigeria, former senator, said that when it comes to bandits of northern Nigeria, they are being treated with kid gloves. When others act the same way, then they use big sticks and start pursuing them.
Right.
Let's call a spade a spade. The problem in this is the poor approach to these people. But if you think that religious leaders have not spoken to them, they are speaking to them. And that's exactly one of the things that Gumi went out to do from my conversation with him. The only place I disagree with him was when he started coming publicly on media and was changing who they are to calling them another title. That was when but I realized that he may have done that, I'm sorry, with due respect to him, out of fear, because they did admit that when they approached them, the people were violent against them. They even quoted all the various interviews they've ever said on television
we have
radio,
to go.
and they were coming against them. So they begin to speak nicely and mildly to win the support of the bandit. But there are efforts going on. It may not be in the public media because of certain reasons, but honestly speaking, I know there are efforts going on.
Thank you very much. Charles Otu, I was going to come to you, but I've been informed that we're out of time. So I want to thank both of you for your interesting contributions. Sincerely appreciate it. Joseph Hab is a chairman of the Christian Association of Nigeria in Kaduna State, and Charles Otu is a political analyst. They've given us an interesting analysis of the issues at hand. Gentlemen, thanks for your time.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having us.
Then thanks for staying with us. We'll take a short break, and when we return, we'll discuss the possibilities of zoning in the All Progressives Congress in Rivers State, of course, and what's happening ahead of the 2023 governorship elections there. Stay with us.
In raising our kids, parents should stop playing God.
The internet is actually using the people.
But when you are looking for money to help other people, then it becomes easy.
Don't rush into marriage. I always say this. You rush in, you rush out.
Family is the bedrock of every society and the essence of life.
On Today with John and Helen, we dig deep into family values in every sense of the word.
Join us every Saturday at 9:15 a.m. on PlusTvAfrica, DSTV channel 408.
With you, we play a part in strengthening the values passed from generation to generation.
What we do not understand, we will stigmatize.
What you can see is the remaining of the tanker that exploded.
The suspect equally confessed.
A 500 naira they collect am. If you no talk, dem go beat you. Na 2,500 they pay.
Welcome back. Governorship aspirants on the platform of the All Progressives Congress in Rivers State have signed a peace accord agreeing to support any one of them that emerges as the party's governorship flag bearer. The aspirants in a communique issued at the end of their meeting in Port Hackett, the Rivers State capital, on Monday, said they have resolved to collapse their political structures in favor of any one of them that secures the party's governorship ticket. They also resolved to zone the seat of the governorship to the Riverine Ijaw area of the state. And joining us to discuss this is a chieftain of the All Progressives Congress in Rivers State, Honorable Golden Chioma. Good evening to you. Thank you very much for your time.
Good evening.
All right. As a member of the party, the All Progressives Congress, and a chieftain of that party, what's your reaction to the news that the aspirants for the position of flag bearer or governor on the platform of your party have zoned the governorship ticket to the Riverine Ijaw on their own?
It was not zoned by anybody. The party has not zoned the office. And the last time the office was zoned was in 2014 and it was zoned to the river southeast. And it has not changed at this time. So what I'm aware of is that the senatorial zone, the river southeast, is supposed to produce the governor. In that same senatorial zone, we have the Ijaw elements also, and we have the Ogonids. So that senatorial zone should produce, and that is the zoning I'm aware of. That was done in 2014. And since then, no governor have come from that zone since 1999.
That's talking about Rivers Southeast.
Yes.
Okay. But are you not aware of the meeting by these governorship aspirants? And the statement was signed by Dawari George.
Yes, I'm aware of it because it's also in the media, in the news. But let me explain to you. What you saw was an amalgamation of people who are scared of Senator Magnus Abe, who is supposed to come from the river southeast. Because of his candidature, the benefactor of all those you saw single-handedly did say that he was zoning it unilaterally without consultation with anybody, that it will go to the river Rhine, which means now that all parts of the state, including the senatorial zones that have produced governors before, are up for it, leaving an entire senatorial zone that have not produced the governor. For me, it will not hold water. But they have the right to so claim, to so agree that if any of them becomes the candidate, that they would collapse their structures. But I doubt the structures they have. Apart from one or two of them, the rest do not have any structure.
So we're looking at, you're saying it's based, are you saying the zoning formula, even if it's unwritten in River State, is based on a senatorial district arrangement? Or, because yes. I know the upline riverine arrangement, some call it dichotomy in River State, having worked there and lived there for 10 years. Should it not be an upline riverine thing?
Yes, Kofi, the state right now, the issue of riverine and upland is no longer tenable. There is virtually no part of River State that car cannot get to. Prior to now, we used to say that the riverine people have to go to Waterside before you have to get to Bonny Waterside for you to get to Bonny. Now, as I speak with you now, the road leading to Bonny is 95% completed. Cars get to Abonima and Bukuma. Cars get to Opopo. So there's no longer the issue of riverine and upland dichotomy. We are all rivers people. If we want to say that ethnicity should be the bane of distribution of offices, then we'll know about that. We'll go to that. In 1999, it went to the other senatorial zone, where the Calabaris belong to. In 2007, it came to my senatorial zone, where the Okrikas belong to. And the Minister of Transportation went. Now it's supposed to go to the other senatorial zone, the River Southeast. And let me explain to you, in 2014, when it was properly zoned to the River Southeast, it was between two candidates, Senator Magnus Abe and Dakuku Bitasai. Both of them qualified because they come from that senatorial zone. And it was between both of them. But just because of the fact that Senator Magnus has gone forward to tell the whole world that he's competent and capable for the office, which they are all aware of. The reason why they are trying to micro-zone it to the Ijaw stock is only to deny a competent, capable individual from aspiring for the office. That's the only thing.
But is Senator Magnus Abe, does he even have an aspiration to be the next governor of Rivers State, to vie for the position of governor on the platform of the APC? Because when I checked, his name was not on the attendance register of that meeting.
Yes. just as I said, the meeting was called by the other faction of the All Progressive Congress in Rivers State. And if you also look at the people that signed that list, they all share the same benefactor, the Right Honorable Chibuike Rotimi Amaechi. And what they have espoused in that letter is to say that they are loyal and subservient to their benefactor, and that I give to them.
Okay.
And I'm very aware that Senator Magnus Abe is a man aspiring to lead Rivers State on his own accord based on his competence.
So if he aspires to lead Rivers State, will it be fair, because of course we know that there's been some sort of division in the party, will it be fair to say that all those who are aspiring, the likes of Tony Cole, the likes of Dakuku Peterside, the likes of Dawari George, the likes of the former chairman of the APC in Rivers State and former chairman of our territorial local government area, Enko, will it be fair to say that they are, loyal to Rotimi Amaechi when in times past we know that the APC in Rivers State would have had one candidate, one person, and all of them would, that's a consensus candidate. You rightly said in 2015, it was Dakuku Adol Peterside. In 2019, it was Tony Eko. This time around, we're seeing that as many as 10 of them have come out. So that shows, doesn't that show that there is some sort of freedom and that not one person is being dictated to or pushed forward, rather, as the consensus candidate?
I'm of the opinion that all those you saw, or those who signed that paper, derive their powers from Right Honorable Chibuike Rotimi Amaechi. I don't think, except one or two of them, that has the zeal and capacity to claim to wanting to contest on his own accord. Apart from that, the rest of them are hinging on the wings or the aprons of the minister. And I'm saying that we have passed that level. In the state, we are an opposition party. We need a credible and competent candidate to face the party in the state. It is no longer party, it's no longer the issue where somebody will say that I've anointed one person. We want people to aspire. We want people to show their capacity to taking up the mantle of leadership. I wish them well in their endeavors, but I'm only saying that what you have seen there is a conglomeration of those loyal to the minister. But I also want to disagree with you. In 2019, it was not Toye Cole, because the APC was also not on the ballot. But the APC had two parallel congresses. One produced Senator Magnus Abe, the direct primaries, and the other one, the indirect one, produced Toye Cole. Unfortunately, the court decided otherwise, and we didn't have a candidate. But for you to say that in 2019, no, the party was not on the ballot in 2019.
I wouldn't want us to go into that because I think that is what under the bridge now. But I just want to go through the names of those who were at that meeting. And I was actually George Tolofari I was trying to refer to. But the names there include Prince Toye Prinzel, who you know very well, Dr. Dakuku Peterside, that's number 2. Dr. Dawari George, number 3. Architect Tony Cole, whom you've just talked about, number 4. Engineer Biopo Mabo Awara, number 5. You have Honorable Ojuka Eflaga Makri, number 6. Honorable Mina Tenda, that's number 7. You have Honorable Ibinabo Michael West, number 8. Sokonte Davis, and then, of course, the final one is Chief Francis Ada. So if these are the candidates of the All Progressives Congress or the aspirants, why wasn't Magnus Abe at that meeting? Bearing in mind we have one chairman of the APC, we have one APC now in Rivers State united under one chairman. Hello.
Kofi?
Yes.
Yes, Kofi, you're making statements I wouldn't want to join issues with you. I felt to have allowed those controversial aspects outside this interview. But let me tell you one or two things. Senator Magnus Abbey, I'm not speaking for him anyway, maybe he wasn't invited. 2, he is not a protege of the Minister for Transportation. Just as I've said, all those there draw their influence or their support from the minister. Now, from the names you read out there, you will find out that there's a common denominator. They will claim to come from the INC part of River State. That I give to them. But the election we're talking about will not be decided by the INC part of River State alone. So it comes to the fact that we have senatorial zones already, which could be referred to as administrative conveniences. And let me explain to you, all aspects or all parts of the senatorial zone of River State have riverine elements, if we want to go to that. So this zone we're talking about is the Rivers East that have not produced the governor.
Okay.
And that is where the governor should come from. Anybody from that senatorial zone is qualified by me.
All right. All right. But how about the fact that you've had, if you go back to, you've talked about senatorial zoning, but if you go back to the upland riverine zoning, yes, I know you said, you can now drive a car to Opobo. But we all know that Opobo is still a so-called upland, or the Ijaw Rivers, if you want to call it that. We're talking about places like over 10 local government areas, Andoni local government area, Opobo Nkoro local government area, Boni local government area, Okrika local government area, Ogubolo local government area. We have Asaritoro, Degema, Akukutoru, and Abuadual. Even Port Harcourt South is what they call it. We've had people from the so-called upland parts of River State in power for, this will be 16 years, Honorable Chairman. This will be 16 years. So would it be fair to allow a so-called
20 years.
20 years, okay. Would it be fair to allow a so-called maybe senatorial zoning where possibly an upland person will still become governor?
Yes.
In a state where the Ijaw Rivers people control, like you said, INC, Ijaw National Congress, control about 10, not less than 10 local government areas.
Kofi, politics is all about numbers. Let us not reduce this thing to issue of ethnicity. I come from a chair local government area. And in the last 21 years, if I'm not mistaken, my ethnic group has not gone to the Senate. What we are talking about here has to do with the governor of River State. Everybody is eminently qualified, irrespective of your ethnic grouping. In 1999, Ebenezer Ezekere lost the governorship with whiskers. He would have been the governor of River State. It has nothing to do where you come from. Let's be fair to ourselves. Ebenezer Ezekere would have been the governor in 1999. Dr. Odile, who became the governor in 1999, was from a minute ethnic group, if you want to put it that way. He's a minority in a local government, which is Anaga. His ethnicity or his ethnic group is a minority in that local government. But he became the governor in 1999. It has nothing to do with your local government. It has nothing to do with your population spread. In 1999, Senator Hussein lost in the political intrigues to Dr. Odile. What I'm trying to explain to you, Kofi, we should not reduce our governorship position to ethnic space. No, I don't agree with anybody.
Okay. All right. Even the fact, Honorable Chairman, even the fact that the People's Democratic Party has names like the current secretary to the state government, has names like current special assistant to the governor on projects, Dax George Kelly, and so on and so forth. These are the names being peddled. It seems the PDP might be tending towards a riverine Ijaw person, candidate. Should that not even be an indication of this?
Yeah, Kofi, let me explain to you. I'm not a member of the People's Democratic Party, but I'm very aware that the PDP is waiting for who clinches the ticket in APC. I can tell you authoritatively, if the APC makes a decision to give it to the Equerry stock, PDP will be running down to get an Equerry candidate. Rivers State is an APC state. We mishandled our opportunities in 2014 and 2019 not to be in charge of the state. As I speak with you, all the names you have mentioned in the PDP are because of the fact that they are of the opinion that because of the position of the Honorable the Minister for Transportation, that the party may be looking towards that angle. So they are also going there. But I do not want to join issues with them. I wish them well.
Okay.
But
right.
I want to tell you that the party, APC, will do the right thing right at this point because we need to be in government in 2023.
All right.
We can't afford to be out of government for another 8 years.
Okay, but you're confirming that the APC now in Rivers State is together united under one chairman and one leadership.
You're raising issues I also do not want to answer, but let me answer you because you have brought it up for the second time. The party at the national have recognized a faction, and that we must all agree. They have recognized my friend on the other side as the chairman. That does not mean we do not exist. We are still a faction. We still maintain our faction. We still strive to make sure that the party comes together.
Who is your chairman as a member of the APC in Rivers State?
You're a member of the press, and you have the opportunity to investigate who was recognized.
All right. Thank you very much. Yes. Golden Shoma, former member of the Rivers State House of Assembly, former chairman of a faction of the APC in Rivers State. He's been our guest tonight. Thank you for your time, sir, and see you sometime soon.
Thank you very much.
And that's the size of our package right here on Plus Politics. We return tomorrow, but thank you for staying with us. I'm Kofi Bartels. Enjoy the rest of our programming.
In life when you're just so scared and you feel like just giving up. Oh, but Dino Milk is saying we know that you can do it. Believe in yourself and then go for it. Go for it. Nourishmental, that is your Dino Milk. Oh yes, Dino Milk, Dino Milk. Drink up your Dino Milk, Dino Milk.
Nigeria, by extension, Africa, is faced with a lot of challenges. The growing youth population with little engagement, that is a ticking time bomb. We are a blessed people with diverse culture and highly cerebral minds who have a lot to say. And yes, we are talking. It is important we drive the right conversation that informs, inspires, influences thoughts and action. If we say there's beauty in our diversity, then let us embrace our diverse culture. We must continue to courageously be the voice of transformation as we are the hope for the future. Yesterday's conversations shape today. What are you saying to shape your tomorrow? We know you have a lot to say, and we are here to hear you.
Comic Republic is a Nigerian startup where we tell African stories. We push the African narrative forward through a traditional art form that is popular all around the world, which is comic books.
We kind of write stories that everybody can find a bit of themselves somewhere in there. You know, when you read our books, you will always be able to find one book that you are able to connect with, even if you are not an African. It's not just for Africans alone, but it's the African narrative. That's really what we do.
We take the process of telling our stories, you know, making our comic books engaging. We do it professionally and we take it as a business. We're growing bigger every day.
You know, we try to make sure that all of our comics, all of our content has a positive message underlying them, even apart from all the action, all the punching, and all the superheroics.
Right now we have close to 48,000 downloads per comic book. We get between 5,000 to 7,000 unique visitors every week. Nigerians have been really excited to see people in Nigeria creating heroes from Nigerians, telling Nigerians that we can be everything we need to be if we only try. The comic business actually has a wide range.
One of the major things that actually helps us to move forward here is the fact that we are more than just a team, we are a family. And family is everything. We understand ourselves, we know what we're meant to do when we're meant to do, and we get them done.
The first and foremost vision for Comic Republic is to take control of the African narrative. Who are the biggest superheroes you know today? You're looking at Spider-Man, Captain America, and Superman. If you look at the colors of their uniform, they're all the colors of the American flag. If you look at where those people come from, they come from America. This is a way that a country has from generation to generation, you know, programmed their people to believe that they are strong and they are efficient. We want to do the same with Comic Republic. That's what we want to do at Comic Republic. That's our vision. And until we're number one at that in the world, we're not going to stop.
My name is Sonya Onoyoade. I reminisce my good old days with an uncommon nostalgia. For me, my days of yore were lived fully from humble beginning. Born in Bere and raised in Inolende, Ibadan, the commonality of our abode made it possible for everybody to know everybody else. So, communal parenting was prevalent, evoking the sentiment of the age-old adage that it takes a village to raise a child. So, bad behaviors could be punished by communal stakeholders other than the parents, such as neighbors, aunts, uncles, and sisters, all taking responsibility for the life and welfare of the children in the community. My parents hail from Modakeke, but raised all their children in Ibadan. My early beginning revolved around Inolende, where I spent my infancy, and which harbored Ebenezer Primary School that I attended. It was a life of school and football, kite flying and sand dunes molded from a foot stuck into the sandy ground. Okoto was a plaything, just like Agbalumo seed. My primary school lay parallel to Igboagala, which housed the iconic colonial-era Bowers Tower, a high-rise rotunda with spiral tiers set on a hill and which played host to visitors and tourists and could be seen from every nook of the ancient city. A saying dedicated to this tower against those not conversant with the complexity of the city is Ibadolomo or Molayipo, meaning that you only know Ibadan but not the Bowers Tower, which locals called Layipo due to its rotunda nature and because you have to climb up its zenith in a spiral stairs. Inolende was communal by every sense of it. Every naming ceremony or traditional wedding, freedom from apprenticeship or sundry events did not require formal invites. Such events were for the community and children were expected to attend, huddled together in a choreographed manner around large bowls of rice as a couple of gazing sheep and bleating goats waited in the wing to pounce on leftovers. Muslim and Christian festivals were actively celebrated by all, irrespective of religious lineage. Ramadan was a time we looked forward to as children of Christian faith because we would wake up to eat Sahari, and some evenings were filled with itinerant musicians who played were, a Fuji genre with Islamic lyrical underpinnings. Sikiru Ayinde, later called Barrister, was a regular team lead in the locality in those days. Will I forget the good old days of Egungun festivals when we followed Ololu or Alakpanshokpa or Atikpako, all dreaded masquerades from Inolinde to Bere and Makbo, sucking in their superlative acrobatic displays and guttural incantations. Young folks, especially those from humble background like me, found the serendipity of Ibadan around the 70s and the 80s. Odo Dandaru, a stream on the fringe of Mokola, was our swimming bay, and the elevator of Kingsway in Dugbe was our playground. Except for Cocoa House and a couple of high-rise buildings, the skyline was not dotted with skyscrapers, yet the serenity of Ibadan was profound, and the security unimpeachable. Family values were strong in my good old days. During school holidays, we would follow our father to his farm in Idiya, a village settlement in the outskirts of Ibadan. Farms were not an attractive sector to kidnappers or armed robbers then. It was fun in the farm, making small fires to roast corn or yam or rabbit caught by midnight traps. In the twilights of the day, while going back to the village from the farm or sitting around the fireplace in the village hut, Father would regale us with stories of life, wisdom nuggets and politics of yore. It was in one such sitting I knew the plant called Akintola Taku, so named because of the political crisis of the 60s. At other times, we followed Mother to Dugbe Market, where she traded in stockfish. I went to Ibadan Polytechnic, Ogun State Polytechnic, and the University of Ibadan. And in my trajectory, educational value was in the quality. Handphones and other modern gadgets of pleasure were few, so there were less distractions. There was nobility of character among students and lecturers. Cultism, sex for marks, student prostitution, and absenteeism were only hush words, unlike now that those vices are threatening the survival of the academia. Our children need to know how we roll back in the days and begin to invent a more quality life. They deserve better today and brighter future, so that they can also have their own good old days in the fullness of time. I believe we need collective efforts to ensure that we make the difference in the lives of our youth now for a better tomorrow. That is why I am joining Sir